All right, this is my commentary for Spiral. This movie used to be called The Organ Donor. No, I think this is the first time. I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time that Lionsgate logo was the normal logo for most of the other movies. I think there's something that went wrong with the rights to the gears and the traditional way that Lionsgate logo was going. I know there was a whole thing with that, but I remember they got the rights back for X to have that logo opening, but there was like some small minor things that were changed visually to kind of get around the whole copyright thing or whatever. Yeah, copyrights are a big thing. When it comes to these things, just like with Friday the 13th with Jason, um, there I think it's like his mask and him and his machete all have different ownerships or something. So whenever there was like a Friday the 13th movie, there were certain elements that were missing in each movie. I've never actually seen all those movies, so I'm not entirely sure. But there were like small pieces that were in one movie but not the other, or there was a different killer the whole time. It was because certain pieces and certain rights were owned by different companies. Yeah, so this is Movies with Love. Thank you for joining me. Yeah, this is my commentary for Spiral. Um, yeah, one's called Organ Donor. This is for the 20-year anniversary for the franchise. Um, so yeah, we open up at a fair, definitely to show the difference in the movies. That hole was visually different originally. It was someone built it, but they built it poking up like a well, and it was supposed to be like built down. So the prop person was from Canada, so there was like a difference in like the translations and stuff like that. Just like with the metric system of hamburgers, like in uh, Pulp Fiction, when they called it a Royale with cheese instead of a quarter pounder or a Big Mac, something like that. Yeah, I remember that funny video when it was that girl. She was like, "I think there's a difference in something because I asked him how much something was, and he told me it was this many pounds, and I didn't ask him what his weight was. I asked how much. So I think there was like a language barrier in England." I remember that video. That was a funny back when YouTube was like really funny. When people had a platform to actually authentically express themselves, not copy each other and repeat the same formulas and patterns. I swear, it's like at this point, every time I go and I see something funny, I'm just like, who made this? Who made that? It seems like they're all the same. Anyway, back to the movie. Sorry. It is actually the day before Halloween. I had a whole month to record these. All right, so I'm watching the movie, and now we have the detective. He is underground, and this. Well, okay, let me start by saying those fireworks at the beginning of the movie. Those fireworks were, or the fair. They did not have the warrants, the proper warrants or whatever to film in that fair, but they did anyway, and they got kicked out, and they stole some shots anyway, and put it in the movie. Used it for the movie for the beginning of this. The hats and the wardrobe that this detective Boz is showing his teeth, a reference to the artwork of, I believe, Saw 2, I think, when it shows the dude's teeth and it shows the gums everywhere. I do not remember the name of the guy who did the artwork and the promotional posters for all the movies, but from what I understand, this was the first movie where he didn't do the promotional artwork. So I think this may be like a little reference to what he did. I could be wrong about that one, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, so the clothing that Boz was wearing was actually based off Angel Batista's wardrobe in the TV show Dexter. I've actually mentioned Dexter a few times during these commentaries of this series. Those two have some correlations together. I'm waiting to see Tobin Bell in a Dexter episode, or him being a special guest star, for a season, or even to see Michael C. Hall in a Saw movie would be great. So our boy Boz didn't make it, and there's his tongue, which is weird because there's a light shining on the tongue, but like the train ran him over, so the train would be in front of where his body was, so there shouldn't be a light on that tongue. So I would say that's an error. Oh, oh, special needs. What, you woke now? Now we have. Oh, so yeah, his wardrobe was based off Angel Batista. Also, down there, that that train station, that subway station was built, and there was a painting of the to give the illusion of the depth perception. Anyway, so now we have Chris Rock giving the best speech in the whole movie. His best friend was a nigger and a white boy with no legs. So he's talking about Forrest Gump right now, the reality of Forrest Gump. That's what I love about that's what I love about comedians is they find these tiny things, these tiny details in everyday subconscious or everyday movies, and then they learn how to they like create a whole different perspective on them. So I love how he did that with Spiral. I almost said the organ donor, but the shots that were taken were from different takes. A lot the guy who did the who edited this movie, which usually I would give a name, but the guy who edited this movie, he took Chris Rock was formulating this scene. He was formulating different things to say in the scene, writing it as he was acting it, and things like that, improvising it. So the editor took a lot of Chris Rock shots and took the shots where he was formulating the script and formulating what he wanted to say, and he used those authentic shots for most of what Chris Rock improvised throughout the movie. Down here, as they're going down the stairway, this was a one shot, an extended shot, going from the apartment, going all the way down into the elevator, into the car, and going all the way down. There was an issue. There was a camera dude. There wasn't a lot of room, and there was a camera incident, and the director almost got hurt. And I think a camera guy did get hurt when they were down there in that hallway. Also, it ran up too much time, so they said, okay, instead of doing this a whole one shot, we're just gonna chop it up and cut it up. I would see a Darren Schneider cut of this movie with the one shots. Police station. That police station, Metropolitan, that was digitally added. That sign that says police station said something else, but it was digitally altered. Here's Angie yelling at him. There's no one on the force I can trust. So I guess yeah, these characters. She's pretty angry right now, but it was to kind of give that sense of heat in Toronto. So you have these fans in the background. A lot of the actors they had like sweat and water that was thrown on their face, just to give the illusion of it's really hot and these people are just constantly sweating. So you see a lot of shininess in the actors' faces and on their heads in this movie, and it was to give that hot summer feel. Also, the person who did the photography, not the photography, yes, I believe the photography, um, who filtered the cameras. He did the photography editing for Drake, for a lot of the Drake music videos. Let me, yeah, because there's like so much. I had to, oof. I didn't know I had this many notes for this movie. This is basically a nonstop. I can just talk about this movie nonstop. I have to make sure my battery doesn't die. But anyway, yeah, so he did the music videos for Drake. And let me see, I have his name written down. Um, there it is, Jordan Oram. Jordan Oram was his name. Yeah, there was a. I bombarded myself with way too much knowledge in a short amount of time, and after a while, I just began to just forget things. I've learned so much stuff in such a short amount of time, and I had to learn to write things down after a while. There's still certain words that I forget. Just, I was actually in an accident a couple years ago, and apparently I got some kind of brain concussion, I guess. I don't remember hitting my head, but I did, and I've had memory problems since, or worse. Here's the guy from Handmaid's Tale, Christian. He was very his actor was very much so just like Tobin Bell with why would I do this? Maybe I should do this. I'm not gonna say this line if it doesn't make sense. This line can be condensed. He was very into how he approached his own character and what he did. Right here in the right here you can see him kind of flashing the watch. Very minor. Some people wouldn't really notice it too much. That Christian raises his watch. He does it multiple times so that Chris Rock's character could notice the watch for what happens later on in the movie when he finds that body. I guess spoilers, but yeah, spoilers. This movie's gonna be spoilers. So the trap that Boz was in earlier in this movie is called the tongue trap. I forgot to mention that. So right here we have Chris Rock and Christian walking down the subway. They had to film this really quickly. This also was a one shot from them walking down the subway. There was, I believe, there was a take right here where the directors and the writers, a director or the writers, some of the crew members were right here passing, getting out of the train, or they were next to the train entrance. I don't remember if they're walking in or walking out, but hold on, let me go back to my notes because I know that it's in here. Uh, Goodness. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I have so many notes about this movie. But yeah, some of the crew members they showed up right here. Maybe it was right here, actually in the lower floor. I can't remember. But yeah, the directors and the crew members were supposed to make a cameo. So the producers and the other crew member was actually cut out in an earlier scene too. Down here we have this cop right here. Chris Rock says, "What do we got?" And he tells him to go check out the body or whatever. Go check it out. That cop, his lines were actually changed because I believe he was a Christian. I know he was a Canadian singer, and he does not like to cuss. So he actually refused to say the F word, and so his line was changed. And so yeah, he didn't say the F word. There was an issue with the director and Chris Rock. Chris Rock said, "I would recognize this mangled up, messed up body. I would recognize that as being my friend. And Darren Bousman said he's just like a meat sack. He's mangled up meat. There was no way. And Chris Rock was like, no, I would recognize that. You see that arm, you see the watch. Yeah, Chris Rock was like, yeah, I would know that that was my friend. But ultimately, the director was like, nah. So Chris Rock says that, yeah, he would know that was him just by the arm, just by the wedding ring, by how the fingers looked, by the watch, he would know. Mm. I remember Christian from Handmaid's Tale. He was actually brought in by Vicky Thomas, uncredited casting director, who suggested, "Hey, you guys should get this dude," and she got him in, and he was in right away. She also was responsible for Vicky Thomas is also responsible for the casting of Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino, the Borderlands movie that just recently came out, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So she does have connections with a lot of black casting and casting some black actors. This movie, there's actually no. I guess he wasn't really cast, but um, look at Christian pretending to be normal. I thought the Jigsaw Killer was dead. I don't get it. I'm confused. Anyway, um, oh, she also did Fences with our boy. Getting that car into that alleyway was nearly impossible. As you can see, it looks so clean, but it was a good shot. There's her eye with the angel wings on it. The angel. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But there's some religious symbolism down in this alleyway. But we won't really talk about that in sense of correlation of the movie. But um, yeah. So Vicky Thomas, she also did Fences with Denzel Washington, Straight Outta Compton, White Man Can't Jump, Beverly Hills Cop 2. Yeah, she's done a lot of cool things. Blood Diamond and Shaft with Samuel L. Jackson. So she helped get Samuel L. Jackson his job in Shaft, and then she got him casted here. So yeah, um, the writer. That's right. Josh Goldfinger was the writer of this movie, and he was the one who appeared down in the alleyway. That's right. I'm all over the place with this commentary. I'm like missing the whole movie. They just got through the alleyway and found the tongue. That box that was blue was apparently there was an issue with the Tiffany people, the people who do Tiffany boxes. So they had to distinguishly put like a white line through that box to get around the fact that this was not a Tiffany box, Tiffany made box, so that they wouldn't get in trouble or there wouldn't be any sue or copyrights or whatever. I know copyright and just legal issues. I'll say that. Um, so right here, they find the tongue, and there's a bunch of cops right here in the room. I don't know if it was this scene or the next scene. Uh-oh. Bitch called Kara. You send an emoji. Yeah, Chris Rock is very funny in this movie. He did a great job. A lot of people said that Chris Rock's performance was bad, was terrible in this movie. I thought his character brought a lot to this movie and to the personality of this movie. I thought he did a great job with what he did. It was important that he didn't take over the movie. He didn't want to take over the movie. He improvised a lot of his lines. Yeah, this scene right here. I believe this was actually improvised by Chris Rock too. When he tells everybody, "Forget all of you guys. When you shot me in the back, where were you all? Boz was my friend, and he took my kid to games." That was improvised by him. Chris Rock told the producers and the writers to make a Saw movie, to make the movie, and just do their formula, do their thing. Yeah, wash your hands. um, that scene, they originally didn't want to do that scene with the dude in the bathroom, but they left it in there. This scene was a lot longer. You can tell by the way that Chris Rock is talking and how quickly the conversation escalates. But there definitely was a much longer conversation that happened in that bathroom, and they just cut it out. Um, Here I go forgetting what I was saying. Yeah, so Chris Rock told them to make the movie, and don't try to write for him. Don't try to be funny. Don't do any of that. Let him do it on his own. So he was like, okay, just go in here. We'll do the movie. I'll do my thing. That scene right, that line when he says, "A lot of you are mad that I effed your mother." None of the other crew members were actually in the room when he did that. He did this scene and they finished the scene, but I believe it was sometime later, him and the director or whatever, they went back and they did that close up of his face and he says, "Some of you are mad that I effed your mother." That was actually, that one line was filmed like a couple of days later after this entire scene was actually filmed. So that was actually a reshoot and an insert. He just thought that that would be funny to put in the movie. So they're like, okay, a few days later, we'll reshoot that, you saying that one line. So yeah, none of the other actors were actually there. So now there's him saying, "I'm on lead. I'm on lead of this case. My best friend died." So no one's giving him any kind of respect because he sold out the cop early, so people were kind of upset with him. So but it is what it is. Um, but yeah, and here's Boz's wife. One of the best songs on the soundtrack, I think. I think her name is Karen. Yeah, she did a great job as playing the weeping widow, the widow. And there was Chris Rock's wife, who cheated on him with the Pilates instructor. Definitely some problems there. You see that there's a lot of issues with. There's just a lot of problems. I'm not one to speak on marital problems or marriage problems. It's always hard because it's a vow to commit to somebody, when at the same time sometimes you don't, sometimes you're going through stuff as individuals, and sometimes it's the individuality that messes up the whole marriage and things like that, which you would think is common sense, but a lot of times people don't understand the significance of common sense, or the potency of what common sense means on a more emotional or spiritual level, or metaphysical level. You could say, "Oh, if you're not together, then you're apart." It's like, oh, that's common sense, but it's like it's more than that. It's more of wrestling personal, about personal problems that you're wrestling with, and you know, um, sometimes marriages just can't handle it. You want to be there for your partner, sometimes you can't. Uh, you just gotta do the best you can and just try to figure it out. Sometimes separating for a while is the best thing to do. Um, it's a hard thing to commit so much to another person and create something new within each other, that sometimes there's parts of yourself that get lost, and sometimes those parts come back. There's just a lot, but there was supposed to be, I guess, a further exploration about why Chris Rock's character and his wife did separate, but they didn't have time to do it in the movie, so that happened there. But anyway, so yeah, so anyway, Chris Rock said, "Make your Saw movie. I'll make it funny." And yeah, so now we have this transition shot of Toronto. in these external shots is beautiful. Beautifully, the music was beautifully done by Charlie Clouser. It was really hot that day. Don't know who those two kids are, but it was nice. It was cool to see, um, like the city downtown life and seeing, I guess, some kids having fun. You know, that's something you don't see in a Saw movie. It's just people having fun. You see in the park, you see the park, you know, the background characters, but you never see them like playing out in the streets or anything. That was cool. So right here we have Chris Rock walking into his apartment and talking with Samuel L. Jackson, his dad's. The director told Samuel L. Jackson to do something, and Samuel L. Jackson was like, "No, I'm gonna sit here. Trust me, it'll work out." Samuel L. Jackson, like me, is a Capricorn. I believe our birthdays are 1 day apart. I think his birthday is like a day before mine. But yeah, I like that how he says, you know, how are you feeling? And the son is like, oh, I'm messed up with my friend dying, and you know Samuel Jackson is like, sorry to hear that, and he kind of,
About you. That's the shit that ruined your career and your marriage. So now you're giving fatherly advice. What you talking about, Willis? Dad, we live in the same building. I saw you out front the other day. You nodded at me like we're the only two black guys in the mall. We haven't had a meal together in over a year. Haven't had a meal? What? You hungry, nigga? You want to go get a fucking slice? Let me tell you something.
oh man, yeah, I like the I like the differences between the generations. He said, "What? You hungry? You want to go get a slice?" And Samuel Jackson gave Chris Rock a hard time, but at the end of it, he said, "Come back over to my place tonight, and we'll go over the case." And he tapped his shoulder, showing, you know, the love and things like that. So Chris Rock's dad, or Samuel Jackson's car is red, and Chris Rock's car is black. There is a symbolism between the color scheme of red and black within the Saw universe, and I have not fully captured what that is, but there was a significant meaning behind the fact that their cars are, one is black and one is red, and the fact that they are not so much um, together, but there is a separation of these two color schemes, and it shows the distance that Chris Rock has with his dad. Something interesting. Samuel Jackson was supposed to have a dad. Oh, and there is Obi's picture, and there's John Kramer's pictures. Obi's picture was the guy from the second movie who died in the furnace. That was his picture. For whatever reason, his is the only picture that shows up as an Easter egg. No other characters. At least not that I've noticed or seen. Here's this black cop right here who's drinking the coffee. He had a very gruesome death in this movie, and they said that I guess his death was like the worst out of all the cops because there were more cops in this movie, more characters that actually died. A lot of these characters that are in the background actually got killed off, and a lot of their deaths had to be cut out. But his was very terrible, and it was filmed, and it was already acted, and it was already, you know, fixed up and everything, but it was removed. But anyway, so Samuel Jackson was in there, and okay, I have to comment on this scene now. This scene right here in this pawn shop or whatever, when the cops are investigating and he puts the badge into the window, that apparently there was some shady stuff going in there, possible illegal stuff, and it was pretty bad. So they were like, you know what, let's do this quick shot and get out of here. But there was like some shady illegal stuff going on, and they had to get out of there before things escalated. This scene right here that shows Samuel Jackson getting out of his car, I don't remember, but I think this shot was in daylight because I think almost every single shot in this movie was done in the daytime. whereas with the previous movies, they were all done at night. And I believe they were just a filter. But also, that scene was originally put at the end of the movie, but they put it here in the middle. But yeah, this scene right here, and here's this woman right here, and this cop. Um, I don't remember her name. I used to know the name. I had all the cops' names from the precinct written down, but I didn't write them down because I'm like, nah, I got enough notes going on, and I'm not sure anyone would really care too much about all that. And here's Fitch being a dirty cop. All right, so anyway, back to what I was saying. So Samuel Jackson was with the was Samuel Jackson. Well, yeah, he didn't know who to trust. He doesn't know who to trust. Chris Rock's character doesn't know who to trust. He has big trust issues. He doesn't know how to open up to people. His wife cheated on him. His dad doesn't really like him. His own precinct shot him in the back. Like of course, he's angry. He's scared. He's alone. He feels like he only has himself. And through all that trauma that he went through and the whole self isolation and the anger, he has no one to turn to or no one to help him. No one that he feels like he can trust. They did talk about making this movie into a TV show, so you never know. Maybe they might explore more of that or more of what this character goes through. But yeah, there's a lot of anger in Chris Rock's character and mistrust, and now he has this new partner, and he has to learn how to trust this new partner, and his unwillingness to trust people really does manifest again in his partner is Christian. Anyway, so now we have Fitch going through the alleyway looking for the drug addict. And I love how they directed it when looks he looks at the bed on the floor and you can see the shadow in the background of the person moving. That was well done. Anyway, so Samuel Jackson was like, no, he was talking to the director during the apartment scene, and he was like, oh, I'm gonna sit here. Trust me, it'll work out. It'll be okay. There were times when Samuel Jackson was was quiet, silently testing the director because he wants to know how far will you go to make sure your vision happens. So Samuel Jackson did kind of intimidated him a little bit on set, and you know, made sure that Darren Bowsman was serious about what he was doing, and he was. And Samuel Jackson was like, "Okay, I got you." I don't know why, but I get a bad feeling every single time I see the pig kidnapping people or wrapping something, knocking somebody out. I always get a bad feeling. It might be the sound. Oh yeah, now here's all the fingers. This was the first time that I believe the first time that there's a cutaway in the middle of the thing happening, situation happening. Originally in this scene, well, I guess I can wait till I get to it. Yeah, it is a little hard to see what's happening. The camera is pretty claustrophobic. And there's the pig. The pig symbolizes a sense of empathy, and empathy is the center point of what connects all things together. You can't connect healing, you can't connect pain. So the pig can be anybody in the realm of Jigsaw. Here's Christian playing the fake baby crying tape on his laptop. And now you see projection, hurt people hurt people. That is a strong message in this movie is hurt people, and this idea of a human virus of what it is that we feel inside we end up attracting, but also what we feel inside is what we end up projecting toward other people, and what we are inside is how we affect other people and talk to them and communicate with them. I'm trying to think of the exact word, not communicate, but interact with them. Okay, so this guy right here who delivers the food to the apartment, that is the son of, I believe, Mark Oren, one of the producers of this of the movie. He has been the producer since the very first movie. That Taroni, the restaurant, is his wife's restaurant that she owns. She was actually a part of. She was one of the first chefs in Las Vegas in the opening night of a Las Vegas restaurant. And not that anyone really cares, but I believe it was it Ben Affleck? I think it was Ben Affleck and J Lo, I believe, who were and I think it was Ben Affleck and J Lo. Um, they were there for for this opening of this restaurant. Mark Oren's wife was the first one who opened up for them, and they said her food was great, and it really helped her out with her career. And now she owns her own. Now she owns her own restaurant, and that restaurant was Taroni's, I believe, in Toronto, and so that was their son. Mark Oren was also the man who played the body in the first movie, who had the question mark painted on his stomach, and Amanda had to rip his stomach open to get the key out. That was Mark Oren. I think that's Mark Oren. But yeah, that's his son, the actor's son, not the universal son of that character, but in real life that was his son. So yeah. Yeah, and his name is Miles Coolest, and his wife's name is Shireen and Arazim. In case you guys are wondering who she is, Shireen Arazim. She was on the Next Food Networks. So yeah, there's Samuel L. Jackson being Samuel L. Jackson, kicking the door open, hitting the dude. That was something he did. Samuel Jackson loves his son, doesn't show his son the weakness. Um, he doesn't show his son that weakness, and that was something that his father showed him, treated him with that distant love. So now Samuel Jackson treats his son with that distant love, and Chris Rock needs that love, and he's not getting it from his dad because his dad never got it from his dad. Um, Something that didn't work. They just got the first flash drive. There's something weird to note about. Oh, here's the pig with the police badge. That pig's name was Mr. Snuggles. Yeah, if you're gonna start pointing the fingers, start by pointing at yourselves. Um, yeah. So this movie does. There's the foreshadow of the strings and the pig and so yeah, this movie does talk a lot about generational curses and the manifestation of generational curses and this idea of people who are hurting inside, hurting other people around them. That is a piece of Jigsaw. In the first 7 Saw movies, Jigsaw puts people in traps that are representations of their own internal sin, but at the same time, they are representations of what John Kramer goes through within himself. When John Kramer is actually testing these people, it's because he's had these feelings within himself, and the only way to really process them is by putting people in these traps and saying, how can I evolve from this? And watching a lot of these people go through these traps is him trying to observe how to really overcome those parts of himself. It's a very complex thing. It's a very complex way of looking at it, but that is how it is. And every character, every character in these series that are an accomplice of Jigsaw are actually parts of Jigsaw's mentality between the addiction with Amanda or um, sociopathy with Cecilia, which I don't want to go too much into her, or just the sick, twisted, um, satanic or not satanic, sadistic nature that was um, Mark Hoffman, and the kindness that was Lawrence Gordon. Like, every accomplice in this series represents a piece of Jigsaw's mind. This character right here, the Christian, the killer in Spiral, represents the idea of I feel pain inside myself, and I want other people around me to feel that pain. Him not.
This closest available. And when I do, I'm going to take this gun and shoot that motherfucker.
Oh man. Samuel Jackson said that he was gonna say Mother Effort only one time in this movie. He says to do, but he did it. He did it a few times. But anyway, so much is going on right now. More Tiffany boxes, more coolest mythology, flashback scene. Oh yes, I was saying, yes, this movie talks a lot about generational curses and the fact that Chris Rock's a lot of what Chris Rock is going through is he's going through it because of him taking on such generational curses and just what that feels like. And that does go more into what the symbol of the spiral stands for, which is like the circle of life or reincarnation or karma, or what goes around comes around, or what you put out is what you pull back in. Just things like that. So that was the deeper meaning of spiral and the meaning of that symbol, and that is the fact that this movie, despite it being so different from the rest of the movies, is actually the deeper message of this movie and the way it was made was actually one of the more intimate connections of what the movies are about, with the symbolisms, what the symbolism is more about. Yeah, I do appreciate how different these movies are too. uh, Sorry, now we have Fitch, and there's the water, there's the electric wire. When when Fitch when his hands go in here and it cuts away, his arm is underneath there, and there's just like a fake hand that's like stuck to his forearm or whatever. So in this scene, when this machine is pulling his fingers, I believe this was him tampering with evidence, is what, you know, falsifying fingerprints, which is why he's losing his fingers. But I believe in this scene, it was a lot more gory. You could see tendons, you could see bones. It was very, very gory, and you could see the internal organs being ripped out, or the internal pieces being ripped out of his fingers as they're being stretched and pulled apart. It was too gory and had to be removed. But this scene was a lot more graphic, and a lot of it was cut. This movie had a lot of problems with the NPA or whatever. So they were like, "Oh, how are we gonna? This is too much. This is too gory. This is too much." So they had to cut a lot of the gore down in this movie. Fitch's trap is called the finger trap. Something interesting about those fingers, actually, the fingers that were ripped off, those were prosthetics. And the director of this movie, who, by the way, directed 2, 3, and 4, and came back for this one, he got those prosthetic fingers from the movie and put them in his bag, and when took the airport to go back home, went to the airport to go back home, And when they scanned his bags, they found the fingers in his bag. So security obviously got him and pulled him to the back and had to, do the routine. And the director got into some trouble, almost got into bigger trouble because he had fingers in, in his bag, and he had to explain that they were props from a movie. But yeah, he was able to keep the fingers, and he has the fingers at his house right now. The money bucket. So now, Chris Rock asked the rookie, "What do you see?" He's like, "This is some New Jack City stuff." Chris Rock was in that movie New Jack City, a movie that came out a long time ago because I had it on VHS. I lost all my VHS movies. I don't know where they are, but he was in that movie, so that was a little Easter egg, little reference. I apologize. I don't know what video game this man is playing. Chris Rock did this scene, and he was talking to the dude at the top, the drug dealer, and he didn't. It didn't come out very right. So this older woman, this older woman that was in the back was actually just like back there as an extra. And Chris Rock was like, "What if I bring her in to make the situation seem more real?" So he brought her in for the scene. So that woman that you see behind him was just meant to like be there for like an aesthetic to give a sense of a feel and look of what the scene was supposed to represent and be. So now he puts the stuff in the bucket, and the drug dealer pulls the bucket up. Yeah, that's a form of dealing that they go through in movies. So yeah, with all that yelling and stuff going on, here's Chris Rock and his partner running up there. Um, you know, Getting past all the guards. I believe that dog almost bit one of the actors. I think that dog almost bit Chris Rock, but I don't. If I'm probably remembering that wrong, I'm sorry. But yeah, anyway, um, what was I talking about before the New Jack City thing? Dang it, I felt like it was important to say that too. This man right here is actually a magician. I believe he was a magician on YouTube, and he did his own stunts. Him being thrown into that coffee table. He really went through that. He had a patty on his back, of course, when he got thrown in that table, but that was real. That's a fake bone. It's not his real bone sticking out. Oh yeah. Darren Bell. Yes, Darren Bellsman, the director. He got in trouble for taking those fingers, and oh yeah. So I was talking about the spiral symbol. So now here's Chris Rock taking a selfie, as like a whole generational thing. Generations is another theme about this movie is generation of the old and the new. And you see Christian turning to Chris Rock's like, you're a messed up cop, you're a dirty cop. What I was trying to say for like the last 20 minutes, Chris Rock is the son of Samuel Jackson in this movie, and I believe Samuel Jackson was originally the son of Detective Tapp from the first movie, which was played by Danny Glover. So there were there were a bunch of okay. So this restaurant, I have to talk about this restaurant. They were hungry, and there weren't enough shots, and there weren't enough exteriors showing off Toronto. So they walked into this restaurant, and it was good. And they asked the store owners, store people, can we film in your restaurant for the scene? They said okay. So they went to this restaurant. They had lunch here, and they shot this scene here. They also, I think this was also a rewrite, like to catch the audience up. They did this scene. I don't remember exactly what was said, but but yeah. Anyway, so I'm sure it's important what they were saying. Okay, now this scene, this church. this was a real church, and they were saying, "Hey, can we film a Saw movie in your church?" They said, "No, get out of here. But you can go in the basement." So they went to the basement, and Chris Rock was like, "No, this is a beautiful church. This is a beautiful scenery. So I want to be in this church." So Chris Rock was like, "Just give me a few minutes to talk to the owners of the church." And he talked to them, and he said, "All right, we got the church, and we can film in here." So they had permission to film, and there here is, cannot remember his name, this character's name. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't. But yeah, this was a good scene. Don't remember this character's name. But yeah, this was the dude who actually. Yes, so here's apartment number 9, meaning um, symbolizing that this is the ninth movie, and this is where it all began when the officer said, "Oh, did you see this?" And the man does the right thing and tells the cop, "Yes, there was a problem here." And so the cop says, "Oh, you want to tell on a cop?" And he shoots this innocent man, not knowing that his son was in the back room, in the back closet, and saw the whole thing, which ends up being the killer of the movie, which was Christian's dad. So this was the cop that actually shot Christian's dad and started this whole thing. Um, but yeah, that apartment number was apartment 9. So yeah, detective. So yes, Samuel Jackson's dad, I believe, was Detective Tapp, and Detective Tapp was supposed to have bloodlines to Chris Rock's character, and it was going to expand more of Detective Tapp. Detective Tapp was the cop from the first movie, and he had that scar on his neck. He was also supposed to be in the fifth movie, but wasn't because of reasons, and so he was also supposed to be mentioned in this one, the ninth one, and he wasn't. But they said, "Nah, we're just not gonna connect that bloodline together." Sorry. And now he's talking. So yeah, now it's Chris Rock talking a little bit more to his partner. His partner. Whenever you have someone who gets close to you, when you get close to somebody, a lot of people don't understand that the closer you get to somebody, the closer you actually get to the most intimate parts of who they are. And then you get closer to their pain, you get closer to what makes them who they are, you get closer to what makes them an empowered person, you get closer to what makes them who they are. Now, the only thing about that is if there is something that's troubling somebody, then you get closer to that pain, and you begin to feel symptoms. Where's the other box? The non-Tiffany box, the Tiffany box. You get closer to them. So when you see Chris Rock's character getting closer to Christian, his partner, the rookie, you see this sense of Christian is getting closer to Chris Rock's heart and what makes Chris Rock who he is. By uncovering who Chris Rock is and what he goes through inside and what he feels, causing Chris Rock to open up, the trials of who or what Chris Rock's character actually is and goes through inside begins to manifest as he begins to open up that part of himself. And as he opens up and he talks more with his partner, he tells his partner these little things like, be careful with this, be careful with that, or this is how you do things, this is how it all works. That actually symbolizes the fact that Chris Rock is trusting and he's opening up to it. And the more he's opening up to his partner, the more they're actually symbiotically bonding. And the more that they're doing that, the more these two are actually interconnecting on a more spiritual level and becoming one on a more spiritual level. And as that happens, they begin to feed off of each other's pain and what's going on in each other's hearts. So as that happens, Chris Rock is painfully unveiling his own pain, but also enduring the pain of Christian. And this means that their darknesses are actually connecting together, and that they are getting to these connecting points. And as the movie evolves, these connecting points are actually revealing more and more of a bond of what these characters symbolically represent to each other, and what symbolically Chris Rock is to the entity of what Jigsaw is and who Christian is. Um, yeah, it's a very complicated, very complicated Rubik's cube of how this movie is formulated. And if you aren't paying, it's very easy for it to go over your head. But it is a very big Rubik's cube, especially between the Chris Rock and the Christian character and what they represent for each other. Um, and yeah, the pig represents empathy, which is the connection of empathy is what connects all beings together. Empathy, understanding, love is that thing that connects everything. And empathy is represented symbolically represented as the pig, which while I'm on the topic, anyway, yeah, I'll bring that up later at the end of the movie. Now, if I remember this, that's the reason why I want to do this in the first place. Charlie, yeah, Charlie tattoo, Christian's fake son Charlie, named after Charlie Clouser, the music composer of the movie franchise. I believe that that person who's actually cutting up the meat of skinning that dead body, I believe that was the original costume designer. I don't know. I don't remember who that was. Um, Fortunately, I don't remember. Constantine Paints. Constantine Paints was named after Jason Constantine, who was one of the crew members that has been around since the very first movie back in 2003. Well, it came out 2004. Oh, well, it was filmed in 18 days. So, but yeah, 2003, 2004. He's been around. Peter Block and Jason Constantine, as well as Greg Hoffman, worked really hard to really get things going, and the whole crew got along with Lee Winnell and James Wan, and then Mark Holis got involved, and um, Mark Berg. Uh, yeah, and it goes on from there. But Constantine Paints was named after Jason Constantine. Um, this cop that got stabbed, who said he got stabbed by a random dude and the dude ran off. Um, I don't remember this. I don't remember this his name. I don't remember the cop's name. But what Charlie Clouser did with the music in the scene is amazing. So once you start to get to this point of the movie, everything feels jumbled. It feels like a big mess. It feels confusing. You don't know what's going on. Everything's moving so fast. Everything's moving so quickly. And the movie just feels like you're lost at this point, and you just don't know what to do. You don't know what's going on. That is symbolic of what Chris Rock is going through in his head, of just kind of falling into madness, and this movie getting very confusing and jumbled up and crazy, is a representation of the madness the main character's story is going through. When Angie goes into the bottom, let me make sure I'm recording still. Yeah, Angie's going into the bottom of the basement of the police station. You can see this door that closes. The name, there's a room, there's a name of that door. It says Vincent and Jules. That was an Easter egg to Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction movie. The two characters being Vincent and Jules, played by John Travolta and Samuel Jackson. Also, the woman who cast Samuel Jackson in this movie also cast Samuel Jackson in the Pulp Fiction movie. And there is a lot of Pulp Fiction references in here. Um, yes, so for anyone who did notice that Vincent and Jules, that is Pulp Fiction Easter egg. Um, sorry, I do have a note here that I don't understand. Drury and Billy. I don't know what Drury means. Sorry, I don't know what Drury means. It's Chris Rock illegally parking in two spots. Yeah, Chris Rock really wanted the producers and the writers to make a movie, and he wanted to add all the comedy himself and formulate it. I love what Charlie Clouser does with the music in the third act of this movie. So right here, Chris Rock is saying the killer has Angie. The dude, the dude that says she's down in the basement, he was supposed to have a bigger role in this movie also. I think he was the replacement captain or something like that also. So now they're going down to the basement. And I think the name of the song is actually called Wax Angie. And I don't know if any of these cops were supposed to make it. I don't think any of these cops were supposed to make it because these traps are very bad. Oh, that's right. The dude who skinned the dead body, his name was Joseph Rocky, Joseph R. Rocky. I believe he was a stunt double or something like that. But I think. Never mind. Forget everything I just said. So she had to sever her spinal cord, her spine, in order to stop the wax from burning her face. And she did. She severed her spine and stopped the wax, but the wax hardened around her nose and her mouth and suffocated her. So even though she did do what she had to do, um, afterward she died from the after effect. Yeah, this was a this slow scene of Chris Rock walking through the dark. the hallway. That scene almost didn't make it, but it made it. Um, I guess what I could say, Chris Rock actually met with Lee Winnell. Oh, oh, this cop right here. This cop, this cop right here who's looking at the surveillance cameras. He is the son of Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, the ice hockey player. I actually don't think I had that in my notes at all, but I do. But I did remember that he is the son of Wayne Gretzky. Don't No, don't have that in my notes, so I don't know what his name was, but um, yeah. Oh, and Angie's trap was called the wax trap. Oh, Drury. Okay, Drury was the black cop. Drury was the black cop that was looking at Chris Rock and saying, "I think you're connected to all of this." Yeah, he doesn't really pop up in the second in the third act of this movie because in the script, I believe he because he died in this third act of the movie. How he actually died was it was very gruesome, but he ended up getting his entire face cut off. But yeah, the dude that like how he waits till he gets to the exit and then he says the F word. And then boom, pig mask gets him. The pig mask was actually so heavy that you couldn't physically move once you had it on. So you had to stand in one spot and kind of wiggle your arms around, but you couldn't really walk. That's why the pig didn't really move around too much. Yeah, the dude who made the posters for this movie, his name was was Tom Palin or something like that. Tom, I don't remember his name.
You want to play games, motherfucker? All right, I'll play.
Tim Palin. That was his name. Tim Palin did the costume, did the poster directing designs, and he this was the first one he wasn't in. So in the scene right here, on the ground is where Drury's body was, the black cop, having his face cut off. His dead body was laying right here in this hallway, and there's going to be a barrel that you see, and the barrel is absent, but Billy was supposed to be sitting on that barrel right here when Samuel Jackson is walking through the hallway. Billy the puppet was supposed to make his cameo in that scene. Which the puppet design for Spyro was very disturbing and evil looking. He was featured in the Savage 20 in the 21 Savage music video that he made for this movie. You can see Billy the puppet, and they remade the first room, the bathroom. And there's the original pig mask hanging. There was supposed to be a real pig in this scene, but it just didn't work out very well. There's a typewriter showing the relics of the past. And there was an actor in this movie, and it might have been the cop, but there was an actor in this movie. Oh, now Chris Rock is waking up. This was a reference to the first movie. He has his arm handcuffed to his wrist, handcuffed into the bar, And then here is Charlie Clouser playing his music. There's a song called You Okay, and there's a song called Okay You. I think this is actually called Okay You. Then there's the old Hacksaw. I forgot what that was actually called. It might be Hacksaw. There's Charlie Clouser replaying an old music note because this movie is meant to have completely new music, a different feel altogether. But this is more of a reference or a permission slip to say, hey, we're kind of back in that realm right now. Yeah, he finds a way to pick the lock and opens the lock. Doesn't cut his hand off. There was a guy in here named Tom Speziality, and I don't remember what his role was in this movie. I think I wish I can remember, but Tom Speziality had some kind of influence in this movie, or he was in this movie. He helped promote an idea or something like that, and he was actually a producer who was well known for a TV show called Dead Like Me. It was a TV show on Showtime. I'm sure a lot of people woke up at like 2 in the morning and saw this show about this girl Georgia Lass who was dead, and she was a reaper. So she got a post-it note, and she had to run to a person, and she had to like touch the person and take their soul right seconds or a minute before they died. And she ended up dying herself, and she ended up becoming a reaper. So she had to go take people's souls minutes before they died, so that way they could go to heaven. It was originally on Showtime, then re-edited for local television shows. He was the producer of that show. He also produced Honey I Shrunk the Kids, but another show called Reaper that was on the CW. That was my favorite show. Um, local television, I didn't really like it, but Reaper was a really good show, and that was a show about a kid who turns 18 or 21, and a kid. Wow, I feel old. He turns 21, and turns out his parents sold his soul to the devil. So the devil shows up, and he's like, "Hey, you work for me now." For that to be a regular local TV show, that was a really great show. But yeah, Tom Speziality, who produced those two shows and Honey I Shrunk the Kids, the three shows, he also had some kind of influence in this movie, and I completely forgot what that influence was. I do apologize, but it did come to mind, and he now. So here's the glass grinder. That's what this is called, and Peter was his name. Um, the name of this song is called Glass Thrower that Charlie Clouser is playing. So this was a real working trap, although the glass that shoots out is actually plastic. So these are actually plastic breakable bottles. They're not actually glass bottles, but they're real and they shoot out real stuff. So Chris Rock was very nervous about doing this scene because you throw something in this grinder and it shoots out these shrapnels of plastic glass. Oh, I love that there's a sign that says "Be careful." I like how the traps of this movie, the design, the atmosphere of these movies, it looks very not right. Like there's a lot of weird things that seem out of place, and then like Chris Rock grabbing this random trash can. It's kind of like, was that purposefully put there or not? Why was that saw there? Why was that lockpick there? Why was this there? Why did this trap not work right? Yeah, the guy that got his fingers ripped off, what exactly did he have to do? Like, it was like a lot of things were just weird. And Pete didn't quite make it. No. Door opens and there's Chris Rock battle damaged. Let me make sure I'm still filming. Am I still recording? Yes. I'm sorry, man. Sorry, listening to that sound effect when Chris Rock pulls the glass out of his arm. Oh, I believe this is the scene. Yes, Chris Rock looks down. Oh, there's a spiral staircase. Him going up. Interesting little Easter egg. Like how the word exit isn't there anymore where it was before. So yeah, that's where the cop's body was, and that's and Billy the Puppet shows up. And now, psychologically, the hero of the story and the villain of the story have to psychologically go through barriers and obstacles which eventually allow them to meet on a spiritual level. That is a formula that's always used in a lot of storytelling. um Christian's character had to spiritually break down Chris Rock's character to the point that the two of them were able to understand the reality of the situation, and then um eventually meet up. But yeah, so it was important that this journey had to be gone through for Chris Rock to really fully understand the impact of what this actually is. Do, do, do. Yeah, Charlie Clouser remaking his music score. I love this music score because this music score tells a story. Listening to the song on its own and hearing it alongside of the scene, you can kind of get a similar story or two. Um, you can get a similar story, but also different stories, but close to each other, which was a mastermind slowly slipping into the role of being a student and then opening up and then sharing and then hiding back behind that mental mask and things like that. And then here's Christian using Chris Rock's phone to lure his dad. I want to be partners. That's the name of the song, I believe, was Be Partners. Yeah, now you have Christian here. While they're talking, because the scene's going to go on for a minute, I watched this scene like 3 times, and it's very distracting. I was saying, I have the time now. I was saying, Chris Rock met with Lee Winnell a long time ago. They were at a wedding, I believe. One of the workers for Lionsgate Studios, I believe, he was getting married and invited some people. And I believe Lee Winnell was there. And Chris Rock was, meeting, doing his thing. And then he meets Lee Winnell. Lee Winnell was like, "Hey," and then he was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And they like shake hands, and then he moves on. And Chris Rock's producer or whatever manager was like, "Yo, that dude that you just shook hands with, you know who that is?" And Chris Rock was like, "Nah, who was that?" Dude was like, "That was the writer for the first Saw movie. That was the creator, one of the creators." He was like, "What?" So then Chris Rock went back to Lee Winnell and totally went out like, "Bro, yo, I heard that, you made Saw. I love that movie. I've always wanted to make a Saw movie, blah blah." And then Lee Whannell was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's amazing having this big time comedian, like my movie. I was a small time writer, storyteller from Australia, and this American, this big time comedian loves his work. So he told Lee Whannell I've always wanted to make a movie like that. He was like, "Oh, okay." So jump ahead like 10 years later, and 2017 happens, and this movie, Jigsaw, is made, comes out by Lionsgate. Right after that, the crew was working on another movie called Jigsaw 2. And what happened was Chris Rock shows up and talks to the producers and tells the producers, "Hey, I want to make a movie with you guys." So the movie that they were working on, which was Jigsaw 2, they completely shelved it. They put it on the back burner and they didn't touch that movie. They stopped all production of it. And they focused on this idea that Chris Rock had. And they let Chris Rock make the organ donor movie. Sorry, which I completely missed the scene when they explained the organ donor um, reference to the line. So when Chris Rock said I wanted to do this movie, they're like, "Okay, we'll do this movie with you," and he did the movie. And then the whole virus 2020 situation happened, and then it was a big mess from there. So this movie ended up coming out in 2021, I believe, or 2022, I think 2021, but it was done several years before it was released. And Saw X, which was originally Jigsaw 2, essentially, that movie was also, halfway into production and being worked on since like 2017, 2018. And we didn't get that movie till like 2023, I think. So, oh, yeah, essentially 2018 to 2025, there have been production issues with these last three movies from the Organ Donor Spiral, X, and 11. But, Um, yeah, 9, 10, and 11. It's been a battle from 2018 all the way to 2025. I say 2025 because of the delay, the year delay. It's gonna be weird seeing one of these movies in September instead of October. And now here's Samuel Jackson explaining and the whole symbolism of the pig and all that. But anyway, so eventually Chris Rock did make the movie. He made this movie. He made Spiral, and this was a fan fiction movie that came to life. Similar to 50 Shades of Grey, being a fan fiction of Twilight and it becoming its own like IP in a sense when it was originally, just a fan wanting to do something. There's a flashback of Angie back when she was innocent and a little naive before she became the captain. Oh man, sorry, a big yawn. And now he's talking about trust and poking at that demon of distrust that Chris Rock is dealing with, and the whole fact that Chris Rock doesn't really know how to trust or open up, and now he's faced with that demon inside of him of distrust, and now he has to, make this big decision of, what do I believe in? What do I trust? What do I do? And yeah, unfortunately, he does shoot the target, And he does trust Christian's character. He does trust the killer, and he had to choose a side. Yep, and now they're fighting. I remember having a nightmare about this scene at one point about that elevator. I don't want to talk about it, but anyway, this dude, this random SWAT guy who's actually cutting the door open, is the brother of one of the costume designers who's been a costume designer since the first movie back in 2004. There is always a member of that family or a sibling of that family who has worked with the director throughout the series. They've kind of swapped back and forth, but I believe that is the brother of the siblings, and this was he was the SWAT dude opening up the door with the saw. Some useless knowledge for anyone who cares to know that. Yeah, so now they kick the door open. Oh man, this definitely could have played out differently. Oh, he set that poor man up. So and this in this scene right here, when you see Chris Rock yelling, you hear the pig screaming, the squeal of the pig in the mix with the vocals, the sound effects and the vocals of his scream. That is a representation of Chris Rock's character basically being born or birthed into or understanding the pain that the killer of this movie went through of losing his dad in such a horrific way. And the birth of the pain of the Jigsaw entity is what Chris Rock has taken on. And in that final scenes, that's why that pig scream is covered with his vocals. That's what that symbolized. And as I explained earlier, what the pig symbolized in the movie, Chris Rock just fully kind of embodied that in that moment of of going through that grief of watching his dad get shot like that. And this again goes into the recurring theme of repeating patterns and repeating cycles of hurt people, and pe- people treat other people the way that they feel inside themselves, whether it's intentional or not. So if someone's going through pain or if they're angry inside, they're going to poke at other people and make them feel angry, make them feel uncomfortable, make them feel awkward, or make them feel happy, make them feel joy, make them feel empowered, just whatever. Um, yeah, and here's 21 Savage, playing his song Spiral. Um, yeah, there have been many remixes, but he is like the first official rapper, which I guess is true because the character who played Timothy Young in the third one made a rap song, and showed it to the director. And I don't know where to find it. But also Lyric, who played the SWAT member in 2 and 3 and 4, he also made a rap song and showed it to the director. So this rapper 21 did another rap, but his was actually featured in the movie. I believe there's been like three that have been like closely involved in canon materials. But yeah, so in the end, we see Chris Rock fully embodying the pain of the Jigsaw entity now. Um, so yeah, big cliffhanger ending. Interesting way to express what happens next. Hopefully, they make their TV show, and we'll see what happens there. Just make one season and call it done. But yeah, Chris Rock told the writers, the creators, make your movie. I'll make it funny. I'll do most of my lines. I'll do the funny stuff. And he also said that he wanted to add a lot of humor to a lot of these scenes and just add a little bit of funny, but still keep the story going, but not make the humor distract from the movie. Here's Glass Thrower. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I wonder if my mic captures that squeaking that's in the. Oh, I forgot to. Oh, well, actually, I'm not drinking anything today. I was drunk on my sweet tea. But yeah. Anyway, I'm watching the end credits now. But yeah, Spiral. This was a pretty interesting movie. I watched this movie like 4 times a couple weeks ago, like 3 or 4 times. So I'm watching it again now, and it's like, yeah. It was funny. I was actually gonna do Jigsaw before watching this one, but I was like, nah, because I'm watching all these movies out of order. And I got it, and I just, which wasn't intentional, but I am. So I was like, why don't I just do this one first and then go back? But yeah, so this was a pretty deep movie, and that symbolism of what goes around comes around, and karma and genetic, generational curses and things like that. And when we go through something and we have a child or children, a lot of times they will go through what we've go through inside, and it just becomes a cycle. And usually, the next generation is tasked with trying to break these repetitive cycles that are in family. And it is about learning how to transform from these cycles, and learning how to break the cycle, and learning how to make a decision that will ultimately stop the pain from repeating itself over and over again. And it does take recreating the past and sometimes making a different decision with that to really heal, um, the situation. You also need, a sense of God, but yeah, so this movie really talked about that and just how patterns repeat over and over again. Oh, Dolby was still around. Anyway, um, 2020, 2021, I think. But thank you for listening to this, and happy 20-year anniversary. Have a good day.